lights.
Yeah,
yeah, you've read one of those around here.
Are you kidding me? Take the newsroom back out of the weather's room.
I believe it. Not too bad out there today,
No,
comparatively.
40s again today. It's been good. There's a lot of talk on some of the national media, and we've said this word before, believe it or not. We're talking about bombogenesis. You know
That's
what that
a word.
is? It really is.
Well, I know they're talking about the storm on the East Coast, but I'm not familiar with the word.
Well, we've said it.
I know, I don't usually listen.
I know you don't.
Truth
I just
be
want to make
told.
sure you're still not listening. Anyway, it's like we'll say like a storm system is moving into Oklahoma and it's going to bomb out or whatever. But technically, it does have a definition, right? Bombogenesis is when a storm drops 24 millibars, that's air pressure, in 24 hours. All right, now that's pretty impressive. This storm dropped 59 millibars of air pressure in 24 hours. That's how amazing this storm is and was, and it's still cranking up the northeast coast right now. And look at the eye of this thing. Literally, it's not a hurricane. It's a cold storm system, but it just really bottomed out and developed quickly overnight tonight. And when those things happen like that, you get some crazy and often, sometimes, some violent weather. And they have a blizzard right now in the northeast. And it's because of how strong that storm is. Here in Oklahoma City, 32 degrees. Our lives are pretty easy around here compared to the East Coast right now. Wind chill of 26.
Of course, the weatherman, Kelly Ogle, who said that he had never heard of such a term before, has been at this news channel a long time. And then the weatherman stated that, oh, we've been using it a long time. You just haven't been listening. Of course, that is what all the weather people are being told to say right now. This storm is to be used bomb cyclone or bombogenesis. And here we have what the storm Greyson appears to be a hurricane in the middle of winter. Now, the term bombogenesis or bomb cyclone is to apply to any storm that drops, I believe they said 24 millibars in one day. Well, the surprising thing is this storm dropped 54 millibars in one day. Now that is truly like a bomb going off. So many of you may have not heard of this term before, bombogenesis, and I know I certainly haven't. I've heard it used a little bit this winter, but so let's just find out what Google says where this meaning was first used. Explosive cyclogenesis, Wikipedia, that is not the word we're using. Bombo what? Here's the weather term people are. To enter this category, the central pressure of a depression at a 60-degree latitude is required to decrease by 24 millibars in more than 24 hours. Well, they should be screaming storm of the century if it dropped 54 millibars in one day. Okay, here on Wikipedia, explosive cyclogenesis, and or bombogenesis. To enter this category, the central pressure of a depression at 60 degrees latitude is required to decrease by 24 millibars in more than 24 hours, which of course this Greyson dropped 54 is the latest I heard. Let's see, history. By the 70s, meteorological bombs were being used by an MIT professor, Fred Sanders, building on the work from the 1950s by Toy Bourgeon, who brought this term into common use in the 80s article. And they're saying the same thing. Let's drop 24 millibars. Formation. And it goes on and on. But here's an interesting term, latent heat release. The influence of air-sea interaction and latent heat. Now, something is making these drop. Let's take a look. Latent heat. Latent heat is thermal energy released or absorbed, a body of thermodynamic system, during a constant temperature process, usually first order phase transition. Latent heat can be understood as a heat energy in hidden form. Yeah, pretty hidden. Well, here, this is our modern day. Let's just check on something a little older. Let's try like Webster's. Since I have some old dictionaries laying around from the 80s, we'll see what they have to say, since these terms have been around since the 80s or 70s or even back as far as the 50s. So, when in doubt, we go to the dictionary. And here we have the Webster's, just a little $25 version. And bomb, B-O-M-B, bomb, B-O, here we go, bomb. Case filled with a bursting charge or exploded by means of detonating device or by impact. Okay, Bombogenesis, come on, baby. Let's see here. Bombardier, Bombazine, Bombi. Yeah, no Bombo. No Bombo. Okay, well, let's go to the big one. Webster's. And, all right. This one is a 1988 version. And we go to bomb. Annihilation nuclear weaponry. Well, we know that some type of weapon's being used because they call it bombo. B-O. Bombay, bomber, bomb load, bomb proof, bomb shell. It just skips right over. There is no such word according to Webster's. So I realize Webster's may not be up to date, being an 88 model, but on current meteorological terms, but surely my iPhone would give me something on it. And so I was typing to a friend in Washington, D.C. to see what he thought of the being hit by a bombogenesis. And this is what my iPhone told me. Bimbogenesis. They had never heard of the word either. Sometimes this spell correct can be very funny. So, but back to the Wikipedia thing and the history of this explosive. The first results for bombogenesis. Here's NASA's view of this monster from space. As you can see, it definitely, and they had hurricane force winds. Why would they not call it a hurricane in the middle of winter? Well, you can pretty much tell why that would be. Here's the deepening low. You can see the obvious frequency being poured right into it. Here are some of the images from the bomb cyclone. Wow. What a nightmare. So, I find it interesting that this movie Geostorm came out at this time.
Thanks to a system of satellites, natural disasters have become a thing of the past.
Where they show the bombs dropping, I find that highly wasteful, way too much. Where this is probably more like what it actually is. You could use mirrors, lasers, easily to heat the center of a cyclone or a hurricane. So this is probably a lot closer to what is actually being used. It's probably part of the Star Wars program being used for geoengineering. And why they would put this in our face right now at this time, I have no idea. But people that don't think that weather modification is real need to do a little study on it. Geoengineering is very real. SRM, whatever you want to call it. This hazing over the world's skies, the total manipulation of the weather is here. Now, I've been skywatching for years, and this is the first season I've heard this term, Bombogenesis. And here the weatherman says, oh, we've used it. This guy says, I've never heard of it before. And put a comment down below what you think of this Bombogenesis and this weather manipulation going on.
Comparatively.
40s again today. It's been good. There's a lot of talk on some of the national media, and we've said this word before, believe it or not. We're talking about bombogenesis. You know
That's
what
a
that is?
word.
It really is.
Well, I know they're talking about the storm on the East Coast, but I'm not familiar with the word.
Well, we said it.
I know, I don't usually listen.
I know you don't.